Hey there folks, what's up? We're back again with yet another marvelous video, and this time we're covering everyone's favorite space sci-fi saga, Star Wars. For many of us, Star Wars was the first taste of sci-fi that we ever got, making it an integral part of our childhood and life. The brainchild of George Lucas, ever since Star Wars made its debut in 1977 with the eponymous film, not only has it become a cultural symbol, but it's also dominated the sci-fi genre for nearly half a century. The first three films of the franchise, starting with the retroactively renamed first movie, Episode 4, A New Hope, Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, and Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, really set the benchmark for visual effects for the era regarding what was possible. As its popularity skyrocketed, the franchise spawned even more movies, video games, and animated films over the years, and ballooned into the juggernaut that we know it to be today. Along its journey, there have been many highs and lows regarding the Star Wars franchise, with not every offering hitting the high standards set by the early films. Even though the saga of the Skywalkers seems to have reached a conclusive end, there are still many stories yet to be told. The content cadence for Star Wars has been pretty steady over the years, with 2024 being no different. With a total of 9 flagship films along with spin-offs like Rogue One and Solo, the Star Wars franchise has amassed over $10 billion in revenue, making it the third highest grossing film franchise of all time. It's no wonder that Disney, who has taken over the franchise from George Lucas after buying out Lucasfilm, continues to churn out movie after movie, even at the risk of some of them being subpar. Today, we're here to talk about all of the Star Wars films that have been announced recently for you to look forward to. So join us as we take you on a journey through a galaxy far, far away, and may the Force be with you. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
You're a clan of 2, a Mandalorian and a child of destiny.
The Mandalorian and Grogu. Yep, the next major story arc for the main line of Star Wars films is going to continue the tales from the hit TV series The Mandalorian. And as the title of the film suggests, we're going to see our favorite bounty hunter and his tiny companion grace the silver screen. The movie will lead the Star Wars franchise into the next era. During D23, the audience in attendance was treated to some exclusive footage. One showed Grogu as a bounty hunter trainee. We have our fingers crossed regarding this one. The show The Mandalorian is set 5 years after the events of the film Return of the Jedi from 1983, which saw the fall of the Galactic Empire. The show, which debuted in 2012, has already been running for 3 seasons now, with many speculating that the movie is going to be based on the script for what was meant to be Season 4. There are many who still hope that this will not be the case, and Season 4 and the film will be 2 separate entities. We don't know what the storyline for the film is going to be exactly, but knowing that it's in the capable hands of Jon Favreau, who's both writing and directing this film, we feel that it will deliver. There is still a long way to go, as the movie is only set to be released on May 22nd, 2026. Untitled Rey Skywalker movie. With Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, having seemingly put an end to the whole Skywalker saga, many fans thought that it might have been the final curtain call for Daisy Ridley's character Rey, at least as a protagonist. However, it seems we're going to be getting yet another film that will see her return to reprise her role as a Jedi. Announced during the Star Wars Celebration 2023 as one of the 3 major projects being undertaken by Disney, there's not much known about this film as of yet. We understand that this movie is supposed to lay the groundwork for a fresh saga in the Star Wars franchise. Ridley's character Rey is touted to be established as the founder of a new Jedi Order and is set 15 years after the events of the Rise of Skywalker film. From what we know, according to Kathleen Kennedy, the galaxy as a whole is in disarray as it recovers from the effects of the war and the influence of the First Order. There are a lot of questions floating around, like what the purpose of a Jedi is and what a Jedi is. With no living master in sight, she goes about fulfilling her promise to Luke with the aid of books and whatever material she finds regarding the Jedi. Set to be directed by Oscar winner Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, a tentative date for the movie's release has yet to be discussed. She's set to become the first female director of a mainline Star Wars film. According to Chinoy, they're cooking up something very special for the fans, as this new setting gives them a lot of creative freedom to work with. The final trilogy of the Skywalker saga saw mixed receptions, with many happy to put that part of Star Wars behind them. This film will undoubtedly generate hype just like every other Star Wars film. Let's hope for all our sakes that this film justifies it.
Galaxy. A Jedi.
Dawn of the Jedi. As the title of the movie suggests, this movie will be focusing on the very beginning of the Star Wars universe. It's been confirmed that the film will show us the first Force wielders and how they came across this mysterious energy. We will most likely not even see any Jedi, at least during the majority of the duration of the film, as the word itself should not have existed during this time. The movie will most likely take cues from the Star Wars Dawn of the Jedi comic book series that deals with the same topic. We can, however, expect it to be a mostly original script, as the director has stated his own visions regarding the movie. The Star Wars universe is very expansive and rich, and we've seen previous Star Wars projects deal with the past. However, these were mostly done through video games like Star Wars The Old Republic and Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. For the duration of time that this franchise has been out, it's surprising that this extremely important and interesting part of the Star Wars universe has never been explored except in the comic book. It's to be noted that this comic book is no longer considered canon after Disney's acquisition of Lucasfilm. The man on the helm for this project is going to be James Mangold, the man behind films such as Logan and Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. According to Mangold, when the film was put in front of him, he was immediately struck with an epiphany of it being a story of biblical proportions. He's hinted that while we may not see Jedis in this film, we will most likely see the beginnings of the Jedi Order by the end of it. The movie is still in its infant stage. We don't have an estimated date of release or even the cast available to us. Out of all the movies that were announced, this has our attention peaked, and we can't wait to hear more about it. The Mandalorian era movie. Not to be confused with the film The Mandalorian and Grogu, this is another movie that was announced during the Star Wars celebration. It's a film set to be directed by Lucasfilm's very own David Filoni. He's considered to be the brains behind many of Lucasfilm's small-screen shows, including The Mandalorian and Ahsoka. Filoni is also considered to be George Lucas's protege, and many believe that he has the necessary understanding and vision to deliver a film that will appeal to long-term fans. According to him, the movie will close out the interconnected stories told in The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, and other Disney Plus series. We will most likely see the return of some old faces in this film that we're familiar with from the TV shows. The movie's timeline is set to take place in between the Return of the Jedi and the Force Awakens films. While we don't know the name of this film or the cast, we do know who the film's major antagonist is going to be, and the movie is set to be tentatively released. Those Sith fans among us will, however, be slightly disappointed to know that we will not be getting a Sith as a major villain. Instead, it's a far more intriguing individual, a certain someone who goes by the name of Grand Admiral Thrawn. Thrawn is one of the most popular villains in Star Wars, but has almost always been relegated as a side villain. It will be interesting to see this evil genius take the stage as the main bad guy, as we feel his character is long overdue for that honor in a major film. The movie's slated to come out in late 2025 or in 2026. The exact dates have yet to be confirmed. Lando. After talks of the charismatic Lando Calrissian getting shown, not much has materialized towards its realization. With fans almost having given up hope regarding this matter, it was announced during the Star Wars celebration that while the series was still very much a work in progress, Lando Calrissian would also be featuring in a self-titled film whose release date was not announced. What we do know is that Donald Glover, aka Childish Gambino, is set to reprise his role as the former administrator of Bespin and the original owner of the Millennium Falcon once again. The character was made famous by actor Billy D. Williams, who first played the role of Lando in the films The Empire Strikes Back and The Return of the Jedi. Donald Glover, we would say, paid homage to Billy's rendition while adding his own additional flair to the character in Solo, a Star Wars story. As of now, not much is known about the movie, such as its estimated release date, cast, title, or the time period in which it will be set. What we do know is that the project is being written and overseen by Donald and his brother Stephen Glover. According to Donald, he wishes to tone down the serious nature of the Star Wars films as he feels that the franchise can sometimes take itself too seriously. We'll have to see if this movie will be as successful as the rest of his works. Shawn Levy's Star Wars movie. This is one of the more obscure Star Wars projects, which is still in the works, and nothing is known about it except for the fact that Shawn Levy is going to be directing it. For those who aren't familiar with Levy, he's the director of the recent hit film Deadpool vs. Wolverine. There was, however, no update about the film in the recent Star Wars celebration, and nothing again in 2024 so far. Levy says he's very well aware of filmmakers who get handed the ticket but never make it past the starting line, and that he is determined to do whatever it takes to make this film happen. Judging by the lack of information and announcements, we can safely say that this film, if it does happen, will only start production after the current slew of Star Wars films and series have finished. This is possibly because Shawn Levy is also in charge of Stranger Things Season 5, and with that series not slated to come out before the middle of 2025, we might have to wait a bit longer for this film. Rian Johnson's Star Wars trilogy. It was announced back in 2017 that Rian Johnson, the man behind The Last Jedi film, was in the running to create his own Star Wars trilogy outside of the Skywalker saga. After the mixed reception that The Last Jedi received from fans and critics alike, with many calling it the worst Star Wars film to ever be created, things seem to have cooled off a bit. After not hearing anything about it since its announcement, Johnson did say that the trilogy was still very much on, but this was back in 2021, and since then, we've heard very little about it. During the Star Wars celebration, Kathleen Kennedy was asked by Vanity Fair about the status of the movies, to which she said that Rian Johnson was still very busy with his Netflix film Knives Out, and once he was done with that, she said Lucasfilm and Disney were still eager to work with Johnson on a film in the future as long as their schedules could be sorted out. She didn't mention anything specific about the trilogy. With the film clearly not even in its planning stages, it seems that it will take a long time before we see Rian Johnson at the head of a Star Wars movie. It might just join the list of shelved projects, which we will discuss in the video later. For now though, since it's still on the table and hasn't been officially ruled out, it makes it to our video. Taika Waititi's Star Wars movie. Another Star Wars movie that's still very much in the woodwork despite being announced is one that's set to be directed by Taika Waititi. He's primarily known to the mainstream audience for his films Thor Ragnarok and Jojo Rabbit. We know that Waititi and Oscar nominee Krysty Wilson-Cairns will be co-writing and directing this film. Unlike Rian Johnson's trilogy, we know that this movie is surely going to happen, as the duo is supposedly already working on the script and designing the early phase of the film. Further, the films were confirmed during the Disney Investor Day presentation in 2020. According to Taika Waititi, he wants to recapture the magic of the first trilogy and make people fall in love with the franchise and film once again. Kathleen Kennedy stated in a 2023 interview that Waititi has already begun working on the script in earnest and doesn't wish to be disturbed during his work. From what the director has stated about his vision for the movie, it seems that it will be riding on a lot of hype when it approaches completion. Taika Waititi has a very distinct style, as those who have watched his previous works will attest. It will be interesting to see how that style translates to a Star Wars film. Upcoming Star Wars TV shows. Star Wars Skeleton Crew. Set to be released this year, Star Wars Skeleton Crew features acclaimed British actor Jude Law as a mysterious Jedi known as Jod-Na Nawud, the show's central protagonist. From what we know, it will follow the adventures of Jod along with a group of children through the galaxy far, far away. As the title of the show suggests, the name Skeleton Crew probably refers to Jod Nawood and his motley bunch of young adults who are part of his group. The story is set to be told from a younger person's perspective living in this universe. It's a point of view that's rarely been explored in the history of the franchise and provides a great opportunity for Star Wars to connect to an audience base that is not children or nostalgia-filled adults. The project is helmed by director Jon Watts, who's famous for the latest Disney Spider-Man trilogies featuring Tom Holland. According to Jon Favreau, who's also worked with him in Spider-Man films, Watts has a unique way of storytelling that connects him with the younger audience in a great way. Along with a host of new characters, we'll also be introduced to a new droid named SM-33. The show's expected to drop on December 4th, 2024 on Disney+. Andor Season 2. After the resounding success of Andor's first season, Lucasfilm and Disney dropped the trailer for the show's second season in 2023 during the Star Wars celebration. It did not feature in this year's Disney Showcase for 2024, and with us already in November, I think it's safe to say that the show is not going to be airing this year. Instead, we've been told that it can be expected to air sometime in 2025, though the exact month and date have yet to be announced. It will continue the story where the first season left off, and will continue during the 4 years between the events of Season 1 and the story of Rogue One. If you haven't watched the first season yet, now would be a great time to catch up to it, with the second season so close to being released. Andor serves as a prequel to the super hit Rogue One film, which itself is a prequel to the original Star Wars trilogy. It's going to see the return of Diego Luna as the thief and scavenger and his journey to save the galaxy from the people who destroyed his planet. He's going to be joined by the entire cast from the first season, along with some fresh new faces. It's one of the most highly anticipated Star Wars offerings, and we can rest assured by the fact that 2025 will, at the very least, have one good show. Ahsoka Season 2. Along with a blog post announcing the movie The Mandalorian and Grogu, which is set to be directed by Dave Filoni, it also announced a second season for the Ahsoka. It will continue the tale of Anakin Skywalker's Padawan Ahsoka Tano, as she develops into a full-fledged Jedi Master after her master's betrayal. Much of the cast that we saw in the first season will return, except for Ray Stevenson. The actor tragically passed away recently, due to which we will probably see his character Baylan Skoll recast for the upcoming season. We saw that at the end of Season 1, Ahsoka, Sabine, Shin, and Baylan are still stranded in Pardia after ensuring that Ezra makes it to the Star Wars galaxy. The show will most likely continue to explore their journey in this alien galaxy, with them eventually making their own way back, having grown stronger and wiser from their trials. The show was instantly popular as it gave us characters from the fan-favorite Star Wars Rebels animated series. Although the first season told a rounded, self-contained story, many questions still have yet to be answered. One of these questions is what the impact of Thorn and the Witches of Dathomir, who made it back along with Ezra to the main galaxy, will be. We hope to gain some insight into how Thorn influenced the creation of the First Order, amongst other things. This show is one of the only shows in the main continuity that's explored things and places beyond the known galaxy, and we can't wait to see where it will take us next. The date of release for this show has yet to be announced, but since we know Dave Filoni's in charge and his movie is slated to come out somewhere in 2026, we can make an educated guess that the show will probably air late next year in 2025. Cancelled Star Wars projects. While there are several movies and series that we can look forward to, there are many that will never see the light of day even after they've been announced. Such is the nature of movies and television. There are a number of things that can come in the way of their creation. Here are some of the few Star Wars projects that were announced, but unfortunately have been canned for various reasons. Boba Fett movie. One of the many projects that never came to pass was a movie on the iconic Mandalorian bounty hunter Boba Fett. It was originally set to be directed by Josh Trank, the man behind the 2015 Fantastic Four, for which he left this project. He was then set to be replaced by James Mangold, but there was a change in direction, which resulted in Mangold taking charge of an entirely new project, which is set to be the Dawn of the Jedi that we already spoke about. Whatever work that had been done for the movie until then was subsequently used for the show The Book of Boba Fett, which came out in 2021. Untitled David Benioff and D.B. Weiss trilogy. The showrunners for the mega-hit television series The Game of Thrones, David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, were announced by Lucasfilm to be heading a new Star Wars trilogy. Unfortunately, things have seemingly unraveled pretty rapidly, as the duo are no longer going to be taking part in this project. While many speculate that the duo are no longer in charge of the films due to the poorly received final season of Game of Thrones, we believe that it's not the only reason. The real reason is apparently the multi-million-dollar deal that they signed with Netflix just before they started their work on the Star Wars trilogy. This allegedly strained their relationship with Kathleen Kennedy, as she found it unsavory for them to have accepted this deal when they knew it would clash with the production of the films. The duo, in their joint statement, announced that they would be working on a series of projects with Netflix, and doing so would result in them not being able to give the necessary time to do justice to such an iconic franchise like Star Wars. While many fans initially assumed that it was Rian Johnson's trilogy that was going to be canned, it turned out it was this one. Kevin Feige's Star Wars movie. Disney brought in Kevin Feige, one of the masterminds behind its multi-billion-dollar franchise, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in a bid to rejuvenate the Star Wars landscape. A movie with him at the helm was rumored to be in the making, but according to Vanity Fair, that's no longer the case. While there were mixed reports from within Disney and Lucasfilm regarding Feige's involvement after Kathleen Kennedy announced in no uncertain terms that she would love to see what Feige would come up with at the moment, there isn't anything in particular that he was working on. This made it quite clear that there's no Kevin Feige-led Star Wars film, at least not yet. Feige's apparently a huge Star Wars fan, and according to the co-chairman of Disney, Alan Horn, it only made sense for him to be a part of the new direction that Star Wars films were taking. We might get to see one in the future, and who knows, he might just be able to sprinkle some of that magical MCU dust on the Star Wars franchise, considering how fans have received the recent movies. Marvelous verdict. After The Last Jedi, which butchered the hopes of many fans for a good Star Wars film, there's been somewhat of a renaissance with the plethora of TV series and spin-off films that have come out since then. With the Skywalker saga finally behind us, to the relief of many, Disney has a clean slate to really push some quality content out. And if their shows are anything to go by, we can be cautiously optimistic about what the future holds. Star Wars as a franchise is so huge that we fans will watch literally anything that comes out in relation to it, whether it be an animated series or a feature film, regardless of the quality we're going to watch. That, however, doesn't mean that the people behind the lenses can be lazy. We hope that Star Wars can continue to amaze and fuel the imaginations of people for generations to come. We have, however, come to the end of our time together without even realizing it. Thanks for staying with us until the end of this video. If you liked this video, be sure to check out the rest of our channel. We cover everything from the latest movies to the greatest anime. We hope to see you again on our next video. Until then, stay safe and marvelous. And once again, may the Force be with you.